What's up, homies? So, got a quote for you. Monsters don't live under your bed. They live in your head. Monsters don't live under your bed. They live in your head. What do you make of that, right? Because to me, like that resonates with me. You know, when you were little and the closet door was open a crack at night, or even now, but probably more when you were little, and it just kind of weirded you out. You'd be like, maybe someone's in there, or under the bed, I guess. That was never my thing. My thing was kind of, having the closet door open a crack. I would check in there sometimes before bed to make sure like nothing was in there or whatever, and then make sure that I closed it before I went to bed. I just think that's a profound quote. What it means to me is that it's like we think that these monsters are out in the world a lot of the time, but we imagine them. And once you take the time to look under your bed, you see there's nothing there. But if you don't actually look under the bed or look in the closet, then that illusion or that feeling that there could be a monster there kind of persists. So you're imagining it, you're giving it that power. And if you don't take the time to really look, then it might as well be there, because in your head it's there. The monster's in your head, right? It's not really there. And this kind of ties into fear for me. Fear of the world. I seem to have a beef with the nightly news and things like that. To me, when I see the nightly news, I see what it does to your mind. I see the way that it puts all these boogeymen kind of, it's telling you that the world is a scary place. And I think it's a dangerous thing when someone else is feeding you a worldview, right? If that's the only place that you kind of get your worldview from the news, and all they kind of do is just present all these different boogeymen, then you're gonna start feeling like these things are happening all around you, because that's all they kind of do is they report of negative things a lot of time, in my perception. And so I personally make the choice to unplug from that, because I understand that your worldview and the way that you see the world, like the way that you look at the world, really affects what you see. So if those monsters in your head, and you don't take the time to really investigate where that's coming from, then you're just kind of living in a fearful state. You're living in a fearful world, a dangerous world. And that's a limited existence, bro. Because what I feel is that if you can't feel safe in the world, then how successful of a life can you have? If you think that there's danger around every corner all the time because that's what the news is telling you, man, I feel bad for that, because I don't feel that you were born to live in fear and to exist in fear. I wouldn't even call it living, because so much of these dangers that are put into your head from the news. Like, I'm not trying to attack the news, but I just feel like that's what they do, is they tell you all these bad things. And you start to think that that's happening everywhere. So then you start to live in this fearful world, right? But it's crazy to think that someone who doesn't consume that fear-based information could live in a totally different world than you. Like, yes, we're all sharing the same earth, but inside, you know, I'm feeding different kinds of things into my being. I don't feel that the news presents a full spectrum of worldview. You know, it kind of just, if you don't scrutinize what you see on the TV and really kind of pick it apart and dissect it, that's dangerous. I think that you and me need to take responsibility for our worldview rather than letting somebody else feed it to you, right? Because the way I see the world and the way that I look at the world, that directly impacts the way that I act in the world, right? If I can act from a place where I feel safe, then I can play. You know, I'm not all the time having my defenses up, waiting for the next boogeyman to come. Because a lot of times there is no boogeyman, it's just in your head. Monsters don't live under your bed, they live in your head. And until you take the time to really stand up to that monster, or just look under the bed, look inside, see where it's coming from, then that monster has power over you. Because, like I'm saying, if you don't look in the closet, then it could be in there. But if you just shine a light in there, flip the switch, man, maybe there's nothing there. And even if there is, then you can face that guy. You can face that monster. You don't need to live in fear, right? Like, it's much better, say there is a monster, say there is some bad thing happening around you. It's much better to just face it than to run from it. Because if you run from it or act like it's not there, you're giving it power, right? If you turn around, face that monster that's chasing you, then it's over. You don't have to keep going and keep running and wondering where it's at, you know? So I think that more than anything, we need to take responsibility for the way that we see the world and the way that we look at the world, and take responsibility for looking around us, for realizing that we can imprint on the world, and we're not just victims. We're not just victims of what's going on, man. We each have our own power to see things the way we want to see them. We don't have to see things the way the news tells us they are, right? We can challenge the views of others. We can challenge our own views too, and wonder why we're living in fear. Because me and you could both be living in two different worlds, you know? I'm trying to give a good example of this, but just how, you know, like, which world sounds more fun to live in? One where you feel comfortable enough to share and you can trust people? Like, what kind of world is it where you can't trust anyone? That sounds like hell to me, man. And that's just not the truth. There's not just people all around you trying to hurt you, you know? It's not a fact. And you gotta be willing to own up to that. You don't want to live in fear. That's not living, man. There's a quote by, they said it was Einstein. I don't know. A lot of quotes get attributed to Einstein, but anyway, there's a quote, and it says, "The most important decision that you will ever make is, do you live in a friendly or a hostile world?" Okay? It really has big implications in the way you conduct your life. If you always have your defense up, if you're always looking over your shoulder, locking the door right away, you know, on guard, that's not what you came to Earth to do. Not everyone's out to get you, you know? And then you're closing down, you're shrinking down. Whereas you can live a more expanded existence. The world can be your friend, but you gotta look at it as a friend. You don't wanna doubt and mistrust everyone around you. Not everyone's out to get you. So yeah, if we can face the monster in our head and realize that, you know, I don't know where it come from, but yeah, like, we don't have to live a fearful, closed down, defensive existence, man. Like, I don't believe we're here for that. We can be much more than that. And we are meant for that. And it starts with taking responsibility for your worldview. Don't let someone else tell you the way the world is. Look for yourself. Realize that you have the power to actually impact the world as well. And which way do you want to do that, man? That's what you're here for. That's up to you. That's up to me. Why wouldn't we want to live as free as possible, feeling safe, trusting in this world, man? Much love, guys. I hope you have a spectacular day. I hope this message finds you well. Mwah.